Well, I think your analysis was very straight line. History doesn't run in a straight line.
Kid, you cannot tell your neighbor he is stealing ducks when you are stealing frogs.
As High Commissioner, I was wrong. As Charandas Prasad, I reacted naturally how any person would have.
I did not come here for that kind of abuse. I did not come here for that kind of abuse. If you're going to go down that road, I'll walk off.
But it's all okay once they're talking. If they were talking, I could not have been here today.
You got ADHD.
I got that.
Calm down.
I think I've done enough in terms of taking our team out of trouble from losing.
Come on, Lou Taylor. That's good. I'm reading the script now, and the first person that comes to my mind to play a detective,
Yes,
but
the
an
Guyanese
erratic
Mikhail
detective is Mikhail Rodriguez.
Why an African slap an Indian? Why a man and slap a woman? No, girl, how you deal with that? You deal with that.
We must encourage platforms like this because it brings together different people and allows for discussions to take place in our country on a multiplicity of fundamental issues.
Kid, you apologizing for something you think I did is wrong. I don't want you to do that, and you should not have done that. Hi there. Welcome to the Freddie Kissoon Show with co-host Akash Persaud. Akash cannot make it this evening. Thanks for being with us wherever you are. Good night, good morning, good evening. This is the Freddie Kissoon Show. We're coming to you from our studios in Queenstown live. Our topic should interest anyone who looks at this program wherever you are. We have two persons with wide, vast knowledge of international relations, international affairs, and how the world works or how it should work. With us this evening is former President of Guyana, Honorable Donald Ramotar, and one of Guyana's longest serving foreign affairs officer who later transferred from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and spent a long time in CARICOM, Mr. Neville Bissember Jr. Our topic this evening is the configurations, the candidate configurations of the United States and what likely to be the results in the changing configurations. So we will look at who would have won if there was a Trump-Biden face-off, and now there isn't Biden. What are the likely results? So please stay tuned for 1 hour of analysis and adumbrations and elaborations on American politics vis-a-vis the November elections. Thanks for being with us. Donald, once again, you have an open invitation to this program, and
thank you, sir.
This gentleman always wear a short jacket on this program.
Yeah, just go through me.
And his friend Mark Cotton said he has 32 short jackets. Now you are anti-colonial man. You probably got a lot of short jackets, Donald.
Well, I normally don't wear suits in Guyana. I wear short jacket because I think it's very important as a cultural thing too. You know, when Guyana was about to become independent, the PPP in government at the time in 1964 had set up a committee of the parliament to look at all aspects of becoming an independent state. And one of the committee's recommendations was the short jacket as official wear for Guyana. That was a decision of the Parliament of Guyana in 1964.
There you go.
So how much short jackets you have now?
I don't know. I don't count, but I have a few.
I told somebody the other day I was going out and I had to wear a tie. I forget to wear a tie, you know. I had to tie a tie. I had to take it off and go just it's years since I retired, I haven't worn a suit. 3 years now. I gotta go back on the internet and see how to.
Gentlemen, starting with President Ramotar. If there was a Biden Trump presidency, do you think Mr. Biden would have lost?
I think after the debate, the Trump-Biden debate, I think Biden lost a lot of ground in that debate. Fundamentally, not because of policies and so forth, but because of his physical condition, that he appeared to be very weak and so forth that night in the debate that he was carrying. And people began to feel that such a powerful country as the United States, you need somebody more vigorous and that idea was catching on rapidly. And that is why I believe that he came under a lot of pressure from inside his own camp to not to withdraw his candidacy for the presidency for this year's elections. So I think he would have been defeated. I don't have any doubt in my mind that if he had been on the list, that Trump would have defeated him. Trump was gaining in momentum, and then particularly after the shooting, the attempted assassination of Donald Trump, I think his popularity went up even further. And he also demonstrated although he's 77 years old, he demonstrated quite a lot of energy at that time. So I think it was mainly that would have put Biden in a very bad position.
You concur, Neville?
I think the short answer, yeah, thanks. And of course, it's an honor to be here with the former president. We go back a long way. From our days in Brussels and so on. Look,
he was once your boss when you were at Foreign Affairs.
No, when Mr. Ramotar became president, I was at CARICOM. Oh, we did a lot of good work with cricket and so on. You remember those days anyhow? It was a separate conversation. No, it's hypothetical. Look, it's a series of things. It's two old men we're talking about. There were other things where he mistook Zelensky. He introduced Kamala Harris as Vice President Trump. The debate, one of the ironies I found is that American politics is so strange, even now and going forward. When the fact checkers run the numbers, they count the number of lies that Trump repeated that night, including about the elections and so on, as compared to Biden. So even though Trump was a stranger to the truth, his performance, as Mr. Ramotar is saying, his performance was more stellar. He had more presence. He had a good command of the issues, and from there on, I think it went a little downhill with these other things. I saw a clip from Bill Maher the other night saying even diseases didn't want the man to be president. That's why COVID took him out of the equation. But as I said, American politics is strange. I don't know if we go back to 2016 with Mr. Trump and Hillary Clinton, they have the plurality system and the majority system. And I'm thinking, even though Mr. Biden might have got the plurality, which is more people would have voted for him, in the key battleground states, where their election is won or lost, Trump might have had the edge. Going into the debate, and even now, he was ahead of Biden in the polls. People said, don't worry, the polls, but you got to look at the polls, friend. And as Mr. Ramotar is saying, he was consistently ahead. And if that was the trajectory that we continued on, unfortunately, I would use the terminology downward for Mr. Biden. We might have ended up with another Trump president. We might still, but that is for us to see in the coming days.
Well, that is what I want us to talk about. Has she clinched officially, not officially, but it seems unofficially she has clinched the nomination?
Yeah.
Donald?
It looks so to me that it looks like now that it's the probability of her getting the nomination is in the 90 percentile area at the moment. The only big name that I think that I haven't heard endorsing her as yet is Barack Obama. I think he had preferred, according to the information coming out, he had preferred a kind of an open contest at the convention coming up in August. But most of the other heavyweights in the Democratic Party seems to have thrown in their lot with her. So it looks to me as if it's almost certain that she will have the nomination now.
No?
Yeah, I think that's how their system works. Look, again, we faced with the Secret Service head resigned.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is Biden got appointed new Secret Service head, not Miss Harris. The man is still the president. So we faced with a very unusual situation where you got a sitting president who is not going to be the contender for the presidency. And the man is a one-term president, right? So, it is very unusual. I think you're right. They have this term about the presumptive candidate. Up to last week, Trump was the presumptive candidate. It's only when the convention endorsed you. So she's gathering numbers. I think they heard, I mentioned Gavin Newsom, I think, at one stage.
His name came
I see last night or 2 days ago, they said, well, Mansham is now an independent, but if he comes back in the party, I don't know. What I find surprising, and I think other people as well, is two things. The amount of money that she amassed in 24 hours, I think 80-something million, unheard of.
91,
sorry. Unheard of. And the amount of youths that have coalesced to her, because I think at one stage Trump was actually doing a little better or better than expected with blacks and youths. Partly because of the same thing we're talking about, how Biden appeared to be old and so on. So short answer is yes, even though she might be the quote-unquote presumptive candidate now, come the convention, she will get a nod, and she's already on the campaign trail, just like Trump was when he was a presumptive candidate, behaving like if she's a candidate. She would be foolish to wait until the convention endorsed her. I said to myself when she won the thing, the same Sunday afternoon, that there might be some white Caucasians in the wings who are not ready for a woman or a black woman to be president, who might do some rearguard action. But I think given now in just a few days, the fundraising, the popularity, she addressed a rally, I think in Wisconsin, the crowd went wild. It's like a rock star. I don't think you can roll that back now, or let me put it another way. They roll that back now at the risk of damaging the Democrats' chance. So they're going to cut the losses and run with her. And she also, on her side, I think, needs to step up to the plate a little bit. She got some criticism. The immigration issue on the border. She ended up with egg on her face for that. Some people say Biden gave it to her deliberately. If she succeed, fine. If she fail, well, she get the blame. But it's a tough issue. And of course, people say, no, she is representative of what the Trump and the Republicans want to do about abortion against women. That will play well, I think. And some of the other big issues, the taxation, the tax and spend, taxing the rich people, which Trump wants to do. We, from our purposes, I don't know if we get to that in the region, we got issues like climate change and oil and gas that will loom large for us. Might not loom large in their election, but it will loom large for us in the region as to who, after November the 5th, becomes the president.
Donald, Kamala Harris could beat Trump, a straight fight between them. Who has more going for them? The American electorate, he said, are strange people.
I had thought that she didn't have a chance to beat Trump before this thing happened. And I thought that the Democratic Party was going to look for someone else but seeing what happened after her, after she it looks like if she's going to get the nomination, the money that was raised in one day, as you mentioned, $91 million, it seems as if the establishment is strongly behind her, and the party, the Democratic Party, the majority is behind her, and it looks to me now that she probably got a good shot at it. She has a good shot at winning the election. But my problem is more than that of just necessarily winning the election. My concern, and put it that way, because the United States, everybody in the world got to pay attention to what happens in the United States. It's such a weight in the international arena, the most powerful country in the world. And my problem is the crisis of leadership in the West at this point in time. To me, it reminds me of the period in the Soviet Union, from the Brezhnev period right down to Andropov and Chernenko and all of that. And it has that appearance in the United States now that there's a serious crisis of leadership in the United States itself, and also in the Western world, in Europe. It's Europe also. There's no really good leadership that gives kind of direction to the world, where it's going and so forth. We seem to be sinking more and more in danger, more and more problems of a nuclear war getting stronger and stronger. And no John Kennedy, who made that very famous speech at the university, American University, at a time when they looked like if there would have been a clash, a world war, and talking about stepping back and disarmament. None of that. The West just continues to drive the whole world into greater and greater danger at this point in time. That's my problem, and I don't think either Kamala Harris or Trump will make things a great deal better than what it is at this point in time.
Do you think, Neville, that it's even, it's tight, or Trump can pull it off?
Well, look, let me pick up on where Mr. Ramotar left. I'll use the word crisis, all right? And there's a crisis domestically in America, and as he quite rightly pointed out, internationally, when you take the global perspective of some of the hot points, Ukraine, you bring South China Sea and so on. But if you just stay for a minute to the domestic thing, in a sense, the Democratic Party was in a bit of a crisis. This lady is the vice president. Like I've said to people, a vote for Trump is a vote for Cyrus Vance to become the next president. The boy is 39. Trump is 70-something. You don't call death on anybody, but all that youngster has to do is wait his turn. And just like how she can step up, because the ticket was Biden and Harris, and she was the vice president. So logically, as I said earlier, for the party to unseat her as the candidate would cause too much internal turmoil, right? The point I'm making about Trump advances that if they win down the road at some stage, you don't want to call evil on anybody, but he might just step up. He has youth on his side. I mean, he's a bit of a hypocrite. He's a bit of a hypocrite because all these people now turn around sucking up to Trump after they've been cussing him for it. Look at Nikki Haley the other night. You know, somebody sent me a clip this morning where she said the next president will be a woman, either she or Kamala Harris. And she stand up on the convention stage last week and endorsed Donald Trump. These people ain't got enough self-pride. As we were saying, I know, they're putting them out with the soup dropping. So I think between now and November, and Ms. Harris made a point, she said they got work to do, they got phone calls to make and votes to get out. Because there's one view that she come up with the quote-unquote baggage of Biden. That's why I say it's a bit of a crisis. In as much as she has to carry on the policies for which she was responsible as vice president, she also has to establish an identity for herself. Not Biden's vice president. She has to become Kamala Harris, presidential candidate. She don't have a lot of time. There seems to be a groundswell. I don't know for sure that black people and youth alone could carry her over the line. But she has her work cut out of her. If Trump continues as it is right now, the numbers say that he's ahead. But she has to change that. And we know numbers have changed in the past. Even here in Guyana and in the Caribbean, the numbers have been misleading sometimes.
India, the polls were wrong in India.
I mean, you're not wedded to the numbers, but you gotta got your people on the ground. And she seems to be committed. Listen to the lady. She sounds genuine. She sounds sincere when you compare the other man who has a history of lying and all the baggage he come with. It's for her between now and November to bring out the vote. You know, traditionally, I think the Republican Party is good at mobilizing, and this even said the last time a lot of the black voters did not come out for Hillary because of some religious issues and so on. She got to go and do that work. She ought to play, you know, she had some issues with her dad years ago, but she ought to play well with the immigrants. And she got a double card. Her mother's Indian, her father's Jamaican. So she should play well with the Asians. As a matter of fact, both groups are claiming her as the first Asian and the first black or first Caribbean candidate. So she got some work to do. It might well go down to the wire, my friend. Right now, I think the race is open.
Oh, when I listen to you there, it's as if you were speaking, and millions like you were speaking, or when Obama was first running. And then Obama became president. I want to read something from a book called Violence and the Third World in International Relations. And the article is entitled Manhunt Presidency, Obama Race and the Third World by Sankaran Krishna of the University of Hawaii. This is what he said, and I wonder if, based on what you just said, this hype for Obama, I heard in an obscure village in Italy, women cried when a black man became the first, cried positively when a black man became the first president of the United States. Listen to this. One could suggest Obama's trajectory when it comes to the third world has been the precise opposite of what one might expect of someone such as himself. With his biracial background and early experience in third world countries such as Indonesia and Pakistan, his upbringing in a place like Hawaii, and his education in institutions that gathered students from far and wide, one might have expected him to deal with the world with more racial empathy and understanding than most US politicians. Yet Obama began to downplay the third world in his own formation, to provincialize his understanding of the world so as to further Americanize himself and complete his journey to whiteness. When you said that about this lady, she's going to get immigrant votes, she's what we call in Guyana Douglas. We said all these things about Obama, and this academic is saying, but Obama turned out to be just another white president. Could this happen with Harris?
I have no doubt it will happen with her. It's not a question of could this happen. I have no doubt. I suspect that one of the reasons she's getting this strong support is because the establishment, this establishment doesn't feel threatened by her. She has a position on Israel. I understand. I haven't read this. Someone mentioned to me something I have to check, that her husband has a very, very strong position supporting Israel.
He's Jewish, yes.
Yeah, and supports Israel.
He's a practicing Jewish.
And she herself has talked about the old U.S. line about what's happening in Palestine, the slaughter, the murder, the immoral killing that is taking place there. She seems to be supportive of that. The same thing has happened with Ukraine. She doesn't have a different position at all on Ukraine, a separate position. And I don't know of her total grasp of everything that is happening. In my view, that one of the persons who seems to have an enormous amount of influence in the United States administration now, and probably one of the persons who may be very supportive of Kamala, because his position might very well be secured, is Blinken, the foreign secretary. I think his influence has probably been very, very strong in the Biden administration, largely because Biden himself was not physically, from the very beginning. If you look at Biden's first meeting with Putin, when you look at them, Biden had a paper in his hand guiding him all the time, all the way through in the meeting with Putin, and several other incidents you will see that really,
I think I saw that they were sitting on waiting, and a host of the journalists were rushing toward them.
And then he didn't have a press conference.
Putin looked very relaxed.
Those who were managing the situation didn't feel confident enough to put him at a joint press conference with Putin. Like Trump would have had a joint press conference with Putin. Other people had joint press conferences with him, but they didn't. I didn't think they felt confident enough in his performance that they didn't put him at a press conference jointly with Putin. So from the very beginning, they were running things, and I think they want to continue to run things. And the State Department, the authority of the State Department has grown. It's always been powerful, but I believe it has gotten much more powerful under Biden.
So Neville, this woman who was born to a Jamaican father, an East Indian woman from India, becomes the first woman, non-white, second non-white president of the United States, and the first woman. Is the world supposed to expect an innovative, transformative president, or she's just going to be, as what this guy said, Obama provincializes his understanding of the world so as to further Americanize himself and complete his journey to whiteness. Miss Harris is married to a devout American white Jewish man. Is she going to complete her journey to whiteness? You see
Freddie,
that?
you're an academic. I don't know why you chose to hang your hat on the basis of what one of your colleagues, one singular person from academia. I don't agree with what the gentleman said. From my experience in CARICOM, Obama was good to us. He came to the Summit of the Americas that Mr. Manning hosted in Trinidad. I think Brian Lara showing you how to play cricket, all kind of thing. He was going one time to Panama. He told him, I gotta stop in Jamaica on the way. He didn't have to stop. He diverted his plane to come and meet with the CARICOM heads. Bahamas was the chairman at the time, but Miss Simpson hosted the meeting. You were there as president. We still in Colombia at the Summit of the Americas. The man asked to meet us. And as a result of that, he assigned Biden responsibility to run with us on things like energy and so on. So I don't agree that I don't know about Africa. I can't talk about Africa. There's a separate issue. But certainly from the Caribbean, the quote-unquote backyard, I argued some years ago, we should be the front line of the U.S. I think the gentleman looked in our direction. And I've been to meetings subsequently for a follow-up with her after Mr. Granger was in the presidency. We went back up to talk to Biden again about energy. We talked to the Treasury people about correspondent banking. Had a good session with them, although they told us the issues with the regulators. So I don't agree with that position, but everybody's entitled to their opinion. Now, if you come to this lady, I don't know that she's going to be a Biden, Obama clone because of the color of her skin. I find that argument to be flawed. Look, the woman was a top prosecutor. She's bright, articulate, she understands the issues, but no other person that my father of blessed memory tells me that some people, when they move into politics, Mr. Ramotar might know about this, things change. And you're surrounded by people, if you don't have good advisors, you're in bop. You talk about Blinken, people tell stories about Blinken and Biden sitting down at the back of the plane for hours. They're very, very close. You believe in the guy. I don't know who will be the Blinken to Harris in her administration. She understands the issues, as I said, between now and November and even beyond. She got to do a transition, establish herself. I said earlier, she has to create an identity for herself, not Biden's vice president, presidential candidate, or President Kamala Harris.
I think the guy.
No, before I want to ask you straightforwardly. Was Obama more form than substance? A lot of people seem to think a black professor gets into a problem with a white policeman. Obama invite them for a drink. Okay, there was a picket about immigration. He joined the picketers. I find Obama was like that. But Obama didn't change. Did he change anything?
But that's the point I'm going to make to you, that the United States has a very, very strong, maybe to use Trump's word, deep state. There's a lot of things happening behind the scene that we never see and we never hear. I think Obama, when he got into the government, he had all the good intentions of doing things and helping the third world and all of that. But he was stopped, I believe, in his implementation of what he wanted to do. And he did a lot of things that are reprehensible. What he did in Libya can never be forgotten. He destroyed one of Africa's most prosperous countries, ended up murdering Gaddafi. And
Sisi overthrew an elected president in Egypt.
All of that
under his presidency.
But I mean, I don't think he did anything. I think looking at the question from a point of view of the same thing happens in our own politics. Looking at it from a point of view of people's ethnicity and so forth, we now seeing that class issues are much more strong. I remember one time too when I think it was the elections. I don't remember if it was Biden's elections or Obama elections or what. Somebody asked Putin what he thought would happen with the new American president, and he said, maybe with his own intelligence that he would have had, he said, when an American president is elected, the next day, the men in the black suit visits him, and that changes a lot of things. And maybe that's he was speaking with the fact that he was head of intelligence and he knows what was happening. But that happens. I mean, if you look now, Americans also are trying. The ruling class in America, they're trying also. They're conscious about the images, about racial images and so forth. Who they have at the United Nations voting against or voting for the continued slaughter
a black woman
and her deputy also. African American.
She came here.
Yeah, all of this shows that class, this ethnicity thing that we try to put so much of emphasis on, that Kamala is a West Indian and mixed with Indian, to me is meaningless, because I think it's the system, what they can do with the system. We have a system in America at this point in time that is driving us into dangerous waters, surrounding China, surrounding Russia, expanding NATO. NATO is now no longer North Atlantic, it's becoming worldwide now. All of that is creating a lot of tension in the world. And to me, to argue about a Douglas woman or a mulatto man is immaterial. I think we got to look at the policies that they're driving and to deal with it at this point in time.
Neville? Before we go on to what a Trump presidency would be like.
When I'm just remembering, when Biden won, I think 2 CARICOM leaders, very next day, Mr. Rowley and Mr. Brown, wrote him, reaching out to him.
Gaston Brown.
Huh?
Gaston Brown.
Yeah. It's public information. People just probably can't remember. Write him, and write in, send him a letter. And say, look, let's continue the good work. Because as I told you, you started to do some work with us with energy. He has met with CARICOM heads quite a few times. The other man, Trump never met with CARICOM, right? He think it was a divide and rule. He invited set of them to Mar-a-Lago, got them sitting outside the room waiting on him. He had never met with the collectivity of the community. He was picking out people, his favorite people. And that in and of itself alone, I think impacted on us in the region as to if we could have a coherent policy towards America. Biden threw that out, said no, it's one region. Just like I said, Obama met with us in Colombia. So there was a change, a positive change. You're quite right about some of the international issues. I'm looking at things from Caribbean narrow lens, CARICOM's perspective. Somebody needs to remind this lady who her father is. That's all. Said, madam, if you got roots and things. We had people before Colin Powell, who I'm not so sure was as forthcoming as he was, maybe because he was in the wrong administration. Eric Holder,
Barbadian,
who, without telling tears out, he came to, you were in Haiti, you were working on the crime and security strategy in Haiti. You were president. The man come and attend the meeting and offered us certain assistance, pledged to work along with security. There have in the past been people who've been able to tap. This time it's the president himself or herself. So I don't know that she's going to necessarily be a clone of Obama. You're quite right, as I said, about some of the international dimensions. But there was a certain comfort level within the community. I'm not telling tears out of school here, but from where you sit inside the secretariat and the reaction of countries and their leaders, that there was an opportunity here with Obama, which was not there with Trump, and which returned with Mr. Biden. It's for this lady to carry it on. And like you say, you look at the experience. If this gentleman is right and I'm wrong, she must learn from Mr. Obama's mistakes and not try to Americanize the situation or whatever. But I think going into the election, she might garner some support from African Americans and immigrants. And unlike some politicians, she shouldn't forget that. She must forget where she come from, how she reached there. And we also have to do our work. I'm saying, just like how we reach out to Obama, very soon somebody, I don't know who the ambassadors in Washington or whoever, going to make that connection to remind the United States that there's a region called the Caribbean, if only for the simple reason that if they look away too long, you got people like China waiting in the wings to come and replace them economically, financially, and politically as well. So there's some work as a counterweight, that needs to be done. And we can't sit down and wait. I mean, let's be fair. If Mr. Ramotar is right and she or Obama didn't do enough, well, then we got to go and make your presence felt. There's everybody out there, want America's help. Africa demands old country, Kenya, for the South Africa, and then they're in trouble with the BRICS and so on. So, but we are close geographically, we're in good proximity. And if you put Maduro into the mix, that's a separate matter.
But if you look at the reason behind some of the Americans coming now and relationship with the Caribbean. I think we were practically ignored until China started to expand and became more wealthy and were able to move out of China and go into the world. The opening up policy. Not the last meeting of the G7 countries, but the one before. They took a decision which was announced publicly that they are putting up initially $600 billion to counter China's Belt and Road Initiative. Not to help, not the fundamental motivation was not to help the third world countries like China was doing. China has a philosophical position that is totally opposite to America. They believe that if they can help a country develop and prosper, that it will be better for China. They can do better trade, better economic relation. They win-win policy that they talk about. But the Americans, if you look at the investments of the West, forget not Guyana or the Caribbean, but the whole third world, they were more not in value-added stuff. I mean, look at our own situation. We were producing sugar since Noah was a boy, and we still producing raw sugar. China goes to country like Ethiopia and take the animal industry and making leather shoes and bags, and so adding value to stuff and so forth. Where the economic assistance is developing the capacity of people. We were more or less before China, we were at the low end of everything. Everything we were at a very basic level. Everything was done and so forth. I remember one time I asked Dr. Jagan in a casual conversation that we had, how did you come up with the idea of developing the University of Guyana at a time when no other colony had ever built a university? He said the first time we had to do a budget for yourself, and he find the scarcity of technical skill that we had to develop something if we were going towards independence to build the human capital that was needed. So why I say that, because we were with Britain for 300 years, they were exploiting us, we were selling cheap and buying dear. In fact, it was under the PPP government that we changed the position, insisted that we can buy from other countries where we get things cheaper. Because we were forced to buy things that expensive because we were a colony of Britain. So, but that extended with all the colonial powers. And the same thing is happening now in a neo-colonial period, that China is helping us to develop capacity to break neo-colonialism chain. And they're upsetting the West. And they're upset about those type of things.
I think that's a good point, because China really doesn't harbor any imperialist tendencies. Certainly not in this part of the region.
It wasn't a colonizing power.
Well, maybe in Asia, years ago and so on. I think But in this part of the region, they have a focus, investment, infrastructure development, and their approach. China don't issue no report on trafficking in persons. Okay? China don't issue no human rights report on nobody. Right? They just deal with you, they're interested in your business, your resources, and as Mr. Ramotar saying, you're willing to help. If you come now to countermand what these people are doing, it's like you're upsetting the apple cart. So there is that dimension, as I said, about us making ourselves relevant, and it has quote unquote helped in the refocusing of resources and the approach, because there's a statement I don't forget, probably on my phone. Biden has said that China wants to become the most powerful economy in the world by 2020 something, and he said it's not going to happen on my watch. There's a man who committed himself to doing this kind of thing. And if you take that global approach and narrow it down to our area in the region, Latin America too, because China is doing a lot of work in further south, in Chile and Peru and some of those countries. Not only the Caribbean, but Latin America. They've been doing a lot of work. Look at our system here, the airport in Jamaica, the highway from Montego Bay to Kingston, in Trinidad, the Queen's Park, the concert hall, all Jamaica built. Bahamar in Bahamas, it was built by an American subsidiary of a Chinese company. So, and this has been going on for years. And I think Mr. Ramotar is right in that regard, where from Washington, when they look out, they see they've been losing some ground. That's why I say we also have to do our part. So, hello, we out here, we're still here. So that focus comes back.
I just want to inform you guys of something. I think both of you know it, and I'd be quite happy to send you the link. One of the things that have stuck in my mind, I think forever, it will never go away once I study international relations. It's a very devastating column by Ron Sanders in the Kaicho News, in which he looked at American global aid for 2019. And he said the Caribbean was the lowest. And he gave the amount of aid allocated to CARICOM countries, in which some of them got less than $1 million US. That is a very important column that all of us who are interested in global politics should read. But I want to get back to the original topic of this this interview. For both of you gentlemen, what is likely to give Obama the edge over her? Does he have Trump the edge over her?
Oh.
Is it a rising right-wing white thing in the US? Is it a frustration with establishment politicians? What is likely? What is our likely weakness?
Let me say that I'm speaking here somewhat reserved in a way, because I'm not living in the United States and I don't have all the facts. And I'm commenting on their politics, knowing that I am not the expert. But I believe that one of the big mistakes that the Democratic Party has been making for a few years is a kind of ignoring of the white working class. And the white working class that voted mainly for Trump at the last election, and some of them described them as being Ku Klux and all of that, the kind of description. But it was the same white working class that voted for Obama and voted for Bill Clinton. So I think the white working class in America is feeling neglected, and it is a misperception, I believe, in many of us, because when you talk about white people in America, you consider all of them being rich, that they're all rich. But there are a lot of poor white working class in the United States that I believe is being ignored by the Democratic Party. And so I think that is one of the mistakes. Remember the last election, Hillary Clinton, she was probably correct technically when she said that went to a mining town and said we could close down this mine and we will have, because of pollution and what have you. But they were white workers who were the main miners in the area. And Trump capitalized on that very well and said, I'm going to expand your jobs and so forth. So I think they need to look at, and the white working class in the United States is still probably larger than the combined minorities of Latino and African American. And I believe that the Democratic Party needs to fix that. I remember during the campaign of Hillary Clinton, Bill Clinton, I understand, I read this somewhere, was insisting that they go to some of these areas and campaign, and they didn't. And I think that was part of the reason that Trump came into government anyhow, because there was a neglect. And I see that neglect continuing under the Biden administration. And that could pose a problem for Harris to win, because the white working class is still a large part of the population that is voting in the United States.
I tend to subscribe to the thing that it's not guaranteed that this man Trump, the Harris thing is not guaranteed. This man Trump has support that you would not imagine from. For example, when you look at, he got Hispanic vote the last time. He got a percentage of...
Mr. Ramotar mentioned Clinton's campaign. And I think I said earlier, like in her case, there's a view that she didn't reach out enough to some of the black religious voters, especially with things like sexual orientation and those touchy subjects. Remember just weeks before the election, this man Comey issued some stupid report about Hillary Clinton.
Yeah.
And me personally, I don't know. I think
private email stuff. Yeah.
Well, it was it. I can't remember. Anyway, he issued a statement something about if she was involved in some criminal activity or something, and that put a little taint on.
But she said that cost her the presidency.
And I'm telling me, I think so personally. If you want to say Mr. Trump was an opportunist in that regard, fine. So, barring anything like that, this time around against Miss Harris, there's no Comey now. Well, who's the Attorney General? Garland, barring anything like that, you're right about the white middle class. But I'm also saying on the other side of that, you got the youth and the blacks now, who she might be able to encourage, and even some of the Asians. Yes, for whatever reason, Trump has been getting support from the Latinos after all the abuse and all what he planned to do and build a wall and all kind of thing. That's one of the strange things about American politics.
He's going to win Florida anyway. Huh? He's going to win Florida, yeah.
That's why, again, I come back to my opening thing about the plurality and the majority. So we really need to see how those numbers pan out. Because barring another Comey type of incident just before the election, if she continues on her trajectory, I'm saying again, between now and November, she had some ground to cover. Most importantly for me, she has to establish herself and give herself her own identity. And let's see how the numbers play out across the electorate in the battleground states. And look, Trump, is she some 2025 something? There's some document circulating what he wants to do to rid the civil service, remove all the civil servants, and appoint his own people. He had a whole set of policies that he wants to implement, which will not necessarily be good for us. Ironically, we have a baby drill. That might be good for us, because Biden has just been in his bonnet about fossil fuels. We get in trouble for that now with the oil and gas. Mm-hmm. Right? They don't want to give us the loan. Mm-hmm. Now, nobody's reminding them that, when you have a mashing up the environment over the centuries, nobody's going to tell you nothing. Now, a small developing country like Guyana, on the cusp of great things, because of the same fossil fuels, come and tell we mustn't take the oil out of the ground, we must leave it in the ground after they've been doing the same thing. So, and I think President Ali is right about that. It's almost immorality in that. How can you be telling me now? And the president said, look, we got a carbon sink there. Whatever we do in offshore there is being compensated by the carbon sink. How could you come now and tell us or Senegal or any other country we mustn't go after fossil fuels when you've been doing the same thing for decades, for centuries? So those inconsistencies need to be worked out. But from a policy level, Trump might actually agree with what we're doing here. Or he wouldn't, no, nobody agree. He wouldn't be as objectionable as Biden was for all going after oil and gas.
I think none of us in the world knows how this thing is going to play out. I don't think anyone right now could say there is a Trump or Harris victory. But if there is a Trump victory, what this man is unimaginable. The things this man say is unimaginable. It's really a surreal world we're living in to have a man likely to become the president. Given what this man does and say, you just can't bring your psyche to understand that this man could be the president.
It's not already, Freddie.
What is he likely to do that can destroy the world?
I think Trump is a very controversial figure because some of the things he says, but if you look at, we had 4 years of Trump already. This is not something that we're going in totally blind, or the American people that say the American people are not. And the one good thing, in my view, looking from Guyana, looking at the United States from here, the one good thing that I would sing Trump praise about is the fact that he has not started any war. If you look at the list from United States presidents from 1945 to now, Trump is probably the only
did not send an American troops into.
You say you end the Ukraine war in a day,
but the reprehensible thing about him on the national relation is what he did I think what is happening now in the Gaza, he's partly responsible for by pushing American embassy, recognizing West Jerusalem as their capital, and forcing Arab countries to conclude agreement with Israel to kill the Palestinian cause and so forth. And what is going on there, he has a lot of responsibility, in my view, for that, because I think those things really anger the Palestinians and
his son-in-law was the point man, and he got a clue.
The Abrams Accord. The Abrams Accord of his son-in-law didn't say anything about a Palestinian state.
That and those are the things that is one of the things. I am in a mixed position because I agree with him as far as Ukraine is concerned, because Ukraine is far more dangerous than Gaza because you're dealing with nuclear powers here. And the possibility of going to a world war is not unimaginable with what is taking place now, and the expansion of NATO and some of the crazies that you got in NATO now. But I totally cannot agree with nothing that he's done in the Middle East. Actually, and the Middle East is a very crucial area, a very volatile area that has impact all over the world when things are happening there. So it's a very mixed bag. But I don't see. Look at Biden. Biden he is no different than Trump in Middle East, as far as the Palestinians are concerned. He's worse than Trump in Ukraine. And many other conflicts. I don't know if they're doing anything about what is happening in Sudan or in the Congo. What efforts are they making to resolve some of those things? You know?
Yeah, what is he like? No, even Mr. Ramotar is right. It just goes to show it comes to things like Israel, where these people bread about where their priorities like, whichever party is in power.
What you think he's likely to do that can destabilize the world and really upset the world order? This man is unpredictable.
Well, destabilizing the world, I don't know if you come again with this thing about mashing up NATO. He already made a debate. He said he didn't want to mash it up.
Does he seem to like NATO?
That would be a very good thing if he does that. I think that would be, he should get a Nobel Prize if he dismantled it.
He said he didn't want to dismantle it. He just wanted them to pay their dues because they were carrying the lion's share. But historically, America came to World War. Is America intervened and then World War II in France and so on? So there's a history to these things. But what are we talking about? When we talking about China?
You see the role for the USSR and ending the war.
But they too. No, it was a pincer movement. No, it was a pincer movement. The US invaded France, and then from the other side, Hitler couldn't go in this direction.
The only reason the US went into France is because the Red Army would have reached there. the Red Army was entering Berlin almost at the gates of Berlin when they opened the second front.
Okay.
In 1944, they opened the second front.
Yeah, so I'm saying
The war was going on from 41.
as far as I know, was a coordinated thing in the pincer movement. The US said they would take it from this side. That's why they signed an agreement with Russia in the beginning. You remember Hitler had signed an agreement with Russia, a non-aggression pact?
Yeah, 1939.
Yeah. And afterwards, the fellow just scuttled it. Because he realized he couldn't win the war if he had an invasion on the flank, and that in fact played to a large measure. But
that's a topic for another discussion.
Right,
because remember
right.
Truman in the 1939, 1940, or the 41, he made the statement that let the Germans and the Russians fight, and then they will go and pick up the pieces afterward. Truman said that in public record.
The operator said 2 minutes. We could probably pinch it.
Yeah, no, so I'll tell you, the NATO, I think like NATO, South China Sea, well, Gaza, as I say, is where their vested interest lie, more so Israel than Gaza. We don't know what Netanyahu's fate will be. Part of the problem is Netanyahu has a tendentious war cabinet. Look at the cabinet in mash up, right? And he had some internal problems because of the coalition politics. And look, people must remember that Hamas was promoted by Israel at one stage, when back in the century, decades back, when the PLO and Arafat were coming into prominence.
To use it.
So these things have a history. So I would leave aside the Israel thing. That one's touch us. But for us, in this part of the world, I mentioned the oil and gas, climate change. Trump is not good on climate change, and we're in trouble with the climate change. You mentioned Ron Sanders' article. There's a reason why we didn't get a lot of money in the Caribbean. You know why? Because these same people in Washington said that our per capita income is high. That's why I wrote that thing the other day in the Sabbath News about the vulnerability index. Don't care how high the per capita income was in Dominica. The economy was wiped out, so we're going to pay back loans. So there's some issues there. Financing, the international system, the UN. You know, we got to be looking for a new Secretary General soon. We don't know how that won't play out. So there's some issues that have to be involved. And as I'm saying, we have to remind the folks in Washington that, hello, we're still around, and don't forget to look in our direction.
I believe, I don't know how the two of you view it, and we coming down to time now, 1 minute. I believe when Bolsonaro got stabbed and was hospitalized, I think that introduced a factor in the Brazilian election that favored Bolsonaro. Now, at his convention speech, Trump was very maudlin and poetic about that attempted assassination. And he did say, and you see the reaction in the audience, he did said, I'm going to explain it, and I'm never going to explain it anymore. And I think that pissed people. Don't you think that attempted assassination is going to be a big issue in the campaign, where the Republicans are going to milk that and say, look, this man almost lost his life for the United States, give him a chance?
They already said it was God save you. There's a campaign thing that is God protect you.
You don't think that may favor him?
Yeah, most likely. Yeah, I think it'll make good political odds.
Yeah, you might survive with
It's going to be good at, huh?
It could, to conclude, it could affect the results?
Well, I don't know how much it would, but obviously it would. It would give the Republican Party a good propaganda, good selling points, and so forth. But I don't know. I don't know if it will be decisive, because already we're noticing that the surge that Harris has picked up is very significant. I think it's something that we got to look at in the coming days and weeks ahead of us. And a lot of things can happen. Harris in a debate with Trump, how would she deal with it? She seems to have a problem. They already are pushing, as I look at Fox News one night, and they were already showing a clip with her speaking for a couple of minutes, but really you couldn't understand what she was saying.
Yeah. She has had some.
This sound like Biden-esque.
The one we're gonna wrap up. What I find is that for once, Trump and Maduro might have something in common. They both said they won't respect the results of the election.
But before we go, if he loses, just briefly, if you lose, could there be trouble?
No, I don't think so.
Who is that one with the rose?
Trump.
No, I don't think so. I mean, even
America's becoming unpredictable, man.
No,
I
but
mean, we got
America got very strong institutions. And very,
you ever believe they would have stormed the Capitol and we got to do this another time, Shorty, coming up.
Good.
Former President Donald Ramotar, Honorable President, thanks for being here. Neville Bissember.
Thanks. Donald, good to see you.
Thanks for watching us. Our panel was former President Donald Ramotar, one of Ghana's longest serving foreign service officer, who later became a big wig, or a big advisor in CARICOM, Neville Bissember. We were looking at the likely results of the November elections, and our panelists give their thoughts. I think I could say both of them think that Miss Harris has a chance, though it's not given. We will see you in the next session. Thanks for being with us. Bye-bye.